Hello, gorgeous women of She Speaks, They Buy. How are you doing? Let me know, how are you feeling? Week 4 of the challenge, week 4 of showing up in a new energy, in a new level of visibility, in a new level of audacity, selling with a new frequency. Let me know in the chat, how are you feeling? What have been some of your biggest transformations, your biggest ahas, your biggest takeaways, even your biggest wins since we have been inside of She Speaks, They Buy. Today, I'm very excited for today's call because we are going to have a conversation that, if I could think back on one of the most monumental times of Wealthy Speaker and the growth trajectory that we have had, today's conversation was definitely a massive turning point when I first realized this. So today we're going to be talking about how to position your brand to get booked on stages, to get paid to speak, how to position your brand to attract these high-end clients into your multi-five-figure offers, but also really become the woman for whom your brand, it's not just growing, but it's compounding year over year, month over month, and becoming somebody for whom your current ceiling is your new floor. So I'm very excited about this conversation today. And let me see inside of the chat. I started the challenge a little late. It's been wonderful. I did a webinar today and I felt so much more powerful than I have in ages. I had 3 instant sales. Let's go, Amber. I am ringing the bell for you, Amber. Let's go. That is so exciting. And it's so interesting because this piece right here, the power, Amber, I'll even have you, why don't you come off of mute? And I would love to hear about any of the energetic shifts or any of the shifts that you felt on that particular webinar that you felt like contributed to the success that you had.
Yeah, I feel like lately, or in the past like 6, 8, 10 months, I've just gotten like more apologetic in kind of how I'm offering stuff and selling stuff. And so a little bit with reconnecting with, what is that larger vision and how does this help this current offer help them get there? Just reminding myself of that helped me just be more excited about it, that it wasn't like, oh, and here's the offer, in case you want it. It was like, why wouldn't you want this? I mean, this is a sure thing, as much as a sure thing can be. So I just felt so much more of that when connected to that other purpose. And just connecting to how it's not a burden that I'm selling. It's not a bad thing. It's a really wonderful opportunity for people. And I really felt that today. So that's kind of what I've been feeling, if that answers it.
I love this, Amber. It's so good to see you, to chat with you. You are a vibe with the green glasses. I love this so much. Your hair color is gorgeous. And yes, this energy shifting from almost feeling like maybe you're doing a disservice or you're bothering people by selling, to having this audacity, this, of course, this is exactly what you need. Even just that shift in the energetics, you incorporate that into the same strategy that you're doing, like massive shifts. So I'm so happy to hear that, Amber. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm so happy you're here. This is incredible. And this work is something that, I love the art of transformational sales speaking, because a lot of the conversation comes back to even what Amber just shared, where there's always a new level of certainty, of conviction, of who you're being. And there's a cap to what you can do inside of the strategy and inside of the messaging and the tactics, but there's no limit to who you can be. And that's the really cool thing about this work, is when we can bring the conversation inward into that signal that you're sending through your energy, through how you're being, through your beliefs, how you're showing up. That's what makes the strategy infinitely more effective. So I'm so excited for you, Amber. This is just the beginning. This is incredible. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about, let me share my screen. And so today we have call 6. I feel like we've lived a lifetime together inside of She Speaks, They Buy. We are going to be talking about stages today. So stages is the last phase in the Wealthy Speaker Roadmap. And I'll be breaking this down from a lens that you may have not heard before. Maybe you haven't heard it in this particular way. And when I think about this, one specific piece, we talk a lot about messaging inside of She Speaks, They Buy. We talk a lot about really the art of transformational sales speaking. How do we communicate this message in a way that moves people? In a way that moves people emotionally, and in a way that moves them to take action. So a lot of what the underlying principle here is speaking to sell, speaking to move people, which is so essential. And your communication in business, your communication in life, your communication even in your relationships is the most important thing to having a life that you absolutely love, a business you love, relationships you're obsessed with. Communication is the cornerstone of it all. But when we think about this piece of being the woman for whom somebody finds you and they are like, Amber, I'm ready to go. Your 5-figure offer, pay in full. I'm ready. I just found you. I don't even know who you are, but you are an incredible leader. You're a vibe. I feel it. Like, I'm ready to go. So what is it about us as leaders, or us in the brand that we're building, that creates this pull? And I want to break that down for you today and give you some things that you can take with you into your own brand. And I'll share this lens because right now, I mean, even inside of Wealthy Speaker, just this past week alone, right? And not even just offers. I want to talk about bigger picture of being a speaker and being a woman who's speaking to move the world. And how many of you want to be getting paid to speak on stages? Drop a yes in the chat if you were like, I love making money in my coaching business, but maybe you don't want your coaching offers to be the only source of income. You want to build a brand that's not reliant on how many people join your offer that day. You want to have multiple streams of income. You want to have a life where you're traveling the world. You want to have a life that gets you paid to travel, flights booked, hotels booked, feeling like a rock star, and being able to change the world. So this piece, I want to show you not just how to sign on high ticket clients, but how do we become a match for these high ticket speaker fees? So in the past week alone, we've had speaking fees land in from $5,000 to $11,000 to speak on a single stage. And when my clients are hiring me on to speak at their event, and right now we have some conferences that we're signing on with, this is the second year that we're going into that contract. So it's like we're going back. These are lifelong relationships. And this is what I really want to help you build. I want to help you build a brand where not just people are buying your coaching offers or, any price, low ticket, high ticket, obviously the high ticket, but how do we become a match for these stages, and how do we become a match to get paid to speak? So this piece I'll share with you because when our clients hire Wealthy Speaker, whether they're joining in a mentorship program, whether they're joining inside of a mastermind, one of our 6-month or our 12-month masterminds, or they're bringing us on to go speak from a stage or help them sell from a stage, it's typically a very quick process. It's typically a very easy process. People have already decided. And when I think about this, even the sales process alone of these high ticket offers, like $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 offers, It's very streamlined because of this one piece. And I want to talk to you today about really this positioning piece. Like, how do we position your brand now that you've got the actual skill sets? You know how to speak to sell, you know how the foundations of speaking to move people. The next piece is, how do people actually perceive you? And I'll share this story because I'll never forget this one piece. And I was in a place in the business where I was building out an event. And I had this mentor who I really, really loved. And he was very successful. He had a massive network. And I was like, I'm going to invite Jeremy on the stage because this will just be an incredible way to get in front of more people. He's seen my journey. He's a great person to have on the stage. And I'll never forget the time that I asked Jeremy to speak on my stage. Now, Jeremy at the time was building the largest mentor founder network in the world. And he's a $1 billion venture capitalist. He was doing deals with all of these incredible business owners. He had this super founder global network where he had people from Red Bull and Kraft and the top brands in the world were represented inside of this mastermind space. And so I was like, oh my God, he is just going to be incredible to have on the stage. It's going to be just a whole new audience to just be exposed to this work and change the world through speaking. And I'll never forget when I asked Jeremy to speak on the stage. Jeremy, I would love to get you in front of more people. I would love to share your message with the world. Jeremy was one of the people who actually ignited Operation Billions inside of Wealthy Speaker by challenging me to think bigger. And it was just a massive mindset shift. And who I became in that process, I was like, this would be an incredible way for me to give to you back, is to put you on the stage and to share this with more people because you've changed my life. And I asked him to speak on the stage and he said no. And I was curious because we had done a virtual event. We had hundreds of people inside of our virtual events. And I was very curious at the time of why he said no. So I asked him, okay, this no problem. But I'm just curious, what was it that made you say no? And I'm going to share a screenshot of this because at the time I thought my brand was good. I thought it was good. I was doing 5 figures in my business. I was making money. I was signing on clients into my high ticket offers. And I'm just pulling up this piece of my feed from back then, right? We're doing $20,000 months. And I thought it was good. You know, I had the colors and the fonts. Everything's consistent. I had a look, you know, it was kind of like this like contrasty look. And at the time I thought that I was doing it right. I had the colors and it was clean and the Instagram feed like was pretty good. I thought so. But I asked him, why did he say no? And he said to me, because Allie, here's the thing, is that I'm doing deals with all of these billionaires around the world. And he's like, I love you, but for me to be seen with your brand, the way that I'll be perceived being seen with you, it's not a good look for these investors. And I was like, well, what do you mean by that? And he's like, well, you kind of have this like cool girl thing going on with the sunglasses. And, you know, let me know if you're kind of picking up that vibe too. What I didn't see that at the time. I was just in my zone. I was just right now, mind you, I still have my sparkles. You will see me. You can even see me right now. We're doing a book launch and I still have sunglasses in some of these pictures, but there's a different nuance of this perception that I want to share with you. So I was like, okay, so my perception of my brand is going to take away from your perception of your brand. And that is why you do not want to be seen together. And he was like, yes. Okay. So, and now he's told me in a really great, incredible story. He told me in a great way that didn't make me feel bad. He pulled out pictures of him when he had his cool guy phase and he had his glasses on and he said, look, Allie, like, I've been there too. Here's my cool guy phase. I completely understand, you know, like, But until we have these conversations of how other people perceive us, sometimes we don't necessarily see it from the outside in. So that was the first time I really had this awareness around not just how I perceived my brand, but how other people perceived my brand. And I knew at that time that I really wanted to be, number one, I was already building stages. I wanted to have people speaking on my stages who were the top of the top of the industry. And I also knew that I wanted to be speaking on stages where it was the top of the industry, the top conferences in the industry. I was getting paid the most, right? And when I think about, I want to say it's a quote from Dan Kennedy. He says, there's no competitive advantage to being the cheapest. Basically, this concept is like, go straight to the top, position yourself as the best, position yourself as, not even just the most expensive, but the most rare, the most unique, like the most valuable. So this was really the first time that I had this conversation around the brand of, okay, so if I really want to be known for what I'm doing in the industry, if I really want to go straight to the top, then what do I need to do in order to go straight to the top? And I'll never forget, this was really the season. I did a photo shoot right after that. And that was really the season that we went all in this realm of speaking. And you can even have seen in that grid, I didn't look like a speaker. If you looked at that grid, you wouldn't see, okay, this person is a speaker, this person is a professional. I just look like another person on the internet, which is fine. And that was great for that time. And it got me to where I needed to go. So when I had this conversation with Jeremy, I was like, okay, it really awakened my mindset. And I came up with this new context of how I wanted to build my brand and how I wanted to build everything inside of Wealthy Speaker. And I still follow this, and we're always just kind of refining and cranking the dial up. But I really got into this concept of, I like to think about it as crafting for the ears of the queen, right? It could be the king, it could be the queen, but it's basically, when we think about this right now, we talked about the energetic signals of your confidence and of your certainty and of how you communicate in your offers and when you're selling, when you're speaking to sell. But before you ever open your mouth, there's a very, very important piece that we have to look at, and that's actually what your brand is signaling to the marketplace before they ever hear your message. And this was the part I didn't understand first. So when I realized this, I realized, okay, my brand is sending a signal to the world. And if it's not sending the right signal, what would happen is something like Jeremy, right? People are going to say no to speaking on your stages. Or I remember I was sending out so many pitches to other people's stages and I wasn't really getting responses. When you have a signal in the marketplace that does not match even the perception of value of your offer. So at that time was when I was first starting to launch these $20,000 masterminds, longer term, multi-5-figure packages. And I would get still a lot of people that would come in, they would apply, they would inquire. And then when I told them the investment, they would say, well, this is too expensive. Or they would just ghost me. But what was really happening is it wasn't the price. It was that the perception of my brand did not match the perception of value of the offer or the price tag on the back end. So I started to realize that this was actually something that was keeping me where I was. And I really started to look at, okay, well, how do we change this? So I came up with, and I'm going to teach you guys today, this context that now what I've synthesized it into is, how do we create this brand where Ralph Waldo Emerson says, what you do speaks so loudly, I cannot hear what you say, right? So this context of, like, I call it the instant influence identity. So how do we create this brand where when somebody sees you, your brand speaks volumes before they ever hear your offer, they ever hear you on a live stream, they ever hear your masterclass or your webinar? How do we create this piece of it And it's so important because this is when I really started to understand this context of signaling. We're signaling in our energy, we're signaling in our voice, we're signaling in our message, but we're also signaling in our brand. And brand is such a fun thing, and I love brand. And before I became an entrepreneur, I was launching and scaling billion-dollar brands for like a decade. So I was always very interested, like, I went to art school, I went to design school, like having, like, what's the angle and how do we present it and how do we share this with the world? So when it came to this conversation, I was like, okay, this is actually fun, because what a brand really is at the end of the day is the art and science of shaping perception. So right now you have a brand. We all have a brand. Everybody has a brand, because your brand is how people perceive you. So whether you're intentional about it or not, or you're semi-intentional, or you're at a certain place, people are going to be perceiving you in a way, whatever your brand is signaling, right? So whether that is, the sunglasses example, or something like they're seeing you on a stage, you're signaling that you're a speaker, you're instantly trusted, you're signaling that you are a woman of influence, right? Or somewhere in the middle. So this piece is so important, and I'll go back to the buyer and the high-end buyer psychology of luxury buying, because when I think about coaching is a luxury offer. People don't necessarily need it. They don't necessarily need to invest $5,000, $10,000, $20,000 into your offer. But why do they? Why do they say yes? So this piece right here is so important, because when we understand this piece and we understand how right now you can decide at any moment that you're going to shift, that you're going to shift the way that you're being perceived, that you're going to shift the way that your brand's being perceived. We started internally and we really started working our way out. And now I want to take you to the brand, because now, okay, like let's talk about how others perceive us. So when I understood this, and I started thinking about this, I was like, okay, wait, I've actually done this in every industry before coaching and mentorship and entrepreneurship. Why haven't I thought of this first? And it was this pattern. I always had this pattern of going straight to the top. I would just kind of find whoever was at the top of the industry, or whoever was making the decisions, or whoever was, the person I needed to be friends with in order to get to that kind of like that VIP or that elite circle. And I would just go and chameleon in and be friends with them and build the relationship. So I had this epiphany where I said, okay, if I want to go straight to the top of the industry, all I have to do is just look at the people who are straight at the top and craft my brand to become a match for them. So I kind of came up with this context at this time of like crafting for the ears of the king or queen. Now I use this example because it goes back to the Jeremy, or it goes back to the person you want to be booked on your stage. Or let's just say you have a client who wants to come hire you on, and they're further along than you. The certainty signal that we want to send to the marketplace, it's like a non-circumstantial certainty. So the certainty level here is, yes, I can serve somebody who's behind me. Yes, I can serve somebody who's at the same level as me. But also, yes, I feel so rock solid for you to come in who are potentially maybe light years ahead of me in another area, but you don't have my zone of genius. But now I feel so rock solid that when you come in my world, I'm a match for you. So when we have this concept of crafting for the ears of the king or queen, the way I think about it is like this. Just like the example with Jeremy, it's so important because, number one, people who are booking you on stages, they've spent years building their brand and building their reputation. And to bring somebody on your stage, it's either going to, they're representing your brand, right? So it could add value or it could detract value. So when I understood this with the Jeremy example, I was like, okay, I want to be a value add, and I want everybody who brings me into their world to be proud, to want to share me with their audience, to want to really be seen with me. And I want to have a brand that's so good that people actually can be seen with me and it elevates their status. So I came up with this context of crafting for the ears of the king or the queen, and it's a mindset that I have, and I'm always thinking about this. So if there were, and you can drop in the chat, who is the top person in your industry that you really respect, you really admire? I'll go straight to like a Tony Robbins, because when I think of legendary speakers, I go straight to the top. So, if Tony Robbins said, let's just say if Tony Robbins was referred to Amber or to Deborah or to Joella, and somebody said, hey, I heard of Joella. She's incredible at what she does. You should check out this woman's brand. She's just an absolute genius. She's changing the world. Her clients are getting insane results, and they passed everything over. And you got put in front of this person. Now, whether it's, a Tony Robbins, or it's like, maybe it's like you're in another world and it's like Gabby Bernstein, or like I think of, a Mel Robbins, or, even just like you're getting invited on some Forbes, right? Forbes wants to go put the link for your Instagram on their stories, and you're going to have 100,000 people following you, right? So I started to get into this mindset of, okay, crafting for the ears of the king or queen really means in my mind is that when somebody like that hears about you. So right now we have this sphere of influence. Okay, we have a sphere of influence, and it's right now you have within your sphere, somebody who's like one connection away, right? How many of you know this to be true? Like we're always one connection away from changing our life. I'm one connection away from Alex Hormozy, right? I'm one connection away from Brendan Burchard. I'm one connection away from like the top people in the industry. So it's like we're one connection away. So right now we have this sphere of influence, and everything that we do sends a signal out of what this sphere of influence says about us. And we also have this kind of like, it's like a rung, okay, around us. And who we know on a first name basis is in this first rung. Now you have the ability to go out and skip rungs, right? It's almost like the bigger your sphere of influence goes, you can get to these higher and higher level rungs. And how can we get there faster is by partnering, building a relationship, being seen with somebody who has a bigger sphere of influence. So I learned this very early on, and this is one of the reasons I started building stages, and I hosted a podcast, and I was starting to invite all these big names into my world so I can build relationships and build the network. But I started to also see that gap where, okay, if I want to go over here to Tony Robbins land, or whatever sphere of influence that means for you, what do I need to do in order to become a match? So I really started with this concept of crafting for the ears of the king or the queen, so that when somebody refers you, or somebody finds your profile, or somebody finds your offer, or even the body of work that you're creating, like your programs, or they're going through your courses, right? I think about something like that. I'm like, would Tony Robbins be an affiliate for the Wealthy Speaker Certification? Would he send my event to his list? Would he send my application funnel to his list? Would he say, this program, you have to see it, and I endorse it? So I started thinking like that, and it really started to elevate all of the decisions I made with the perception of my brand. So I remember I went and I did this photo shoot, right? And I'll share with you the things. I'm going to break it down. Because what I started to do was I started to realize, okay, there's a way that you can create this bigger sphere of influence, and you can create what I call an instant influence identity. So what is an instant influence identity, and why is this so important for a high-end speaker brand? So when I think of a high-end speaker brand, I think of somebody like you, who you want clients to sign on, and not just into your, 3-figure or 4-figure offers. You want clients to sign on to 5-figure offers, to invest long-term, to come in and stay for a long time. You want them to be really incredible and come into your highest level packages. And then when I think about your speaker brand, similarly, we don't just want to get booked on stages. We want to get booked on the top stages. You want to be inside of rooms where thousands more people are getting exposed to your brand. You want to get inside of rooms where you get next to one giant in the industry, and now your perception of who you are completely shifts the trajectory of your life because of that one moment, that one stage. So when I started to realize this, I realized that there were a couple things that are included inside of what I call this instant influence identity. And the first one we talked a lot about is your energy. What are you actually signaling to the marketplace? What does your energy say to other people, right? So we can have this yes energy and we can have this no energy. Yes energy. Amber hit it on the head earlier where she said, I just went on there and I was like, of course, this is the offer you're going to buy. Of course, this is the best offer for you. Of course, this is going to change your life. Of course, being in our world is going to change your life. Of course, right? We also have this no energy where it's like uncertainty, or maybe still trying to prove, or let me explain the value, or is this going to work? Are people going to like it? Are they going to think it's too expensive? Are they going to give me price objections when I put the price out? Maybe I should tell them it's less when I send the price. So we have this, number one is your energy, and we talked a lot about that inside of your voice, inside of the way that you communicate, but there's also this energy that people can feel in your brand the moment they see you. I call it the 50 millisecond sale. So somebody immediately, it's a subconscious thing that's happening, will instantly create a perception in their mind of your brand. Do they want to stay? Do they want to go? Do they want to follow? Do they want to keep scrolling? Do they see you as somebody who they want to buy from, or how do they perceive you, right? So we have this energy. And then we also have your actual brand. What is it that you are known for? Are we really positioning your brand as the go-to person? And when I think about this now, I was just on a call today. We have a client who's doing an event in Detroit, and we were on a call with her speakers, doing some speaker training. And the way that she introduced me is she said, she is the one for speaking to sell. When you want events, you want speaking, like, you're going to Allie. And when I think about that, I go back to that part where I had the conversation with Jeremy. Nobody saw me like that at that point. But I went and I actually did this photo shoot. And I'll never forget that photo shoot, because that was the time where I decided, I said, I'm going to embody this $1 million speaker energy. So I had the energy. I was like, this is it. I've got the energy. I've gotten the certainty. Now let's go take it to the brand. Let's go take it to the visuals, because the visual, people are going to see the visual communication before they hear your verbal communication, before they click the see more button and open the copy in the carousel, before they click, the hook on the reel and open that up, before they go into the masterclass, they're going to see the banner with the actual branding. So I went to this studio and I was like, we're going to position ourselves as the $1 million speaker. And at that point, that was when I understood this concept of signaling, not just what your brand says, but who you're seen with. So this was in the tandem, this kind of happened together, and I'll tell you the next two pieces of this instant influence identity. So I went inside of this studio and I understood, I was like, okay, well, all I need to do is just create this higher level of perception. So I got these, like sparkle dresses. It still was me. I still showed my tattoos. I wasn't trying to cover up who I was, but I got this like wireless headset mic, and it was not even connected to anything, but I'm in the spotlight and I'm doing these photo shoots, and I started shooting this brand photography and creating these videos to shape this perception of me as a speaker. Now, at that point, I had been on some, I'd been on some okay stages, some, like events with 500 people, and I had other people who were flying me around, but I knew I wanted to get to that next level where it was like top conferences, top production studios, people who had the massive, like the fireworks and the LED walls, and they had hundreds and hundreds of people. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to build my brand to become a match for that, so that when that opportunity comes, they're not going to say no. I'm going to add value to that brand. So we did this photo shoot, and I basically pulled the same concept from what I teach in Wealthy Speaker, which is build your own stage. This is one of our brand mantras. So I essentially built my own stage, and I wasn't speaking, but I was shooting on it. So we shot this it was a half day in the studio, looking like $1 million speaker. And what happened next, I mean, of course it happened next, but it was kind of just this really interesting piece where I didn't really expect it to happen in that time frame. So I just kind of refined everything, these new visuals, this new brand, this new photo shoot, these new videos. I'm on the stage, I'm looking like $1 million speaker. And what happened next was people started joining more of my higher ticket offers. I'm starting to get more inbound speaking engagements. Before, I was doing a lot of outbound. I was doing a lot of pitching, and I still do a lot of pitching. I pitch all the time. But there was a lot more inbound, and people were coming in. And now people actually really started seeing me as, oh, Allie's the one to go to for speaking. So it was before that I was saying, hey, I teach speaking. Hey, I teach speaking. And of course, I had these photos and videos of me, in rooms, on a mic, and different things. But when I really elevated that brand imagery, this is when I'll never forget this, because I'll never forget right after that, we actually had this was the first time I had somebody buy on the spot for a $20,000 offer in the room. And before that, people would buy my $20,000 offers. But it would take like a push, like a big launch, and 30 days. And it felt like there was just like a lot more pushing and a lot more in the process. And I'll never forget, because after that, we did an event, and I shared our 12-month mastermind. And I had zero expectations, because I'm always just there to serve. Of course, I'm going to deliver an incredible offer. And I'll never forget the woman who, she held up her phone and was waving it to me 2 minutes after I dropped the invitation. She was like, I'm in. I just put my deposit down. And it was that moment where it's like I realized that the process of building trust, the process of people finding me, the process of people perceiving me as this higher value brand collapsed the timeline of the people who are actually buying the offers on the back end. So I realized this, and I was like, okay, let's do more. Let's do more. This signaling thing is working. So that's when I really started to go, okay, I was really deep in the skill set. I knew I wanted to be all in on speaking. I was taking it a level deeper. I was going into mastering speaking to sell. And this is when I was like, okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go fly all over the world, and I'm going to get in the room with these top speakers. I'm going to train with them. But number one, I'm not just going to train with them. I'm going to, just like every other room, go straight to the top, go to the front, get the picture with them, talk to them, shake their hand, make their friend, build the relationship with them. And so in every room, now I'm building this brand, but I'm getting these photos, and I'm getting these pictures, and I'm being seen with these top sales speakers in the industry. So I started sharing them with my audience and really showing people and sending emails and sharing these stories of not just, hey, I teach speaking, but now it's, hey, look at my brand. I am a wealthy speaker, but also look who I'm in the room with. I'm somebody who takes this seriously. And what was happening was those people were starting to build my sphere of influence bigger and bigger and bigger. So the combination of these three things, when we have these three things in alignment, your energy, your certainty, your conviction, how you are communicating, the signal that you're sending out to the high-end buyer, we have your brand. And I don't just like to think brand, because anybody can have a brand, but I like to think a high-end brand. High-end, there is a level of intentionality that is on the same level of where you want to go. So if you want to be signing on $20,000 clients, being able to have this awareness of, okay, if you're going to hire a $20,000 mentor and you're going to invest multi-five figures, like what draws you to her? And you can drop it in the chat too. When you are going to make a long-term investment, like $10,000, $20,000 offer, one-to-one, mastermind, what draws you to somebody? This perception. Like what is her presence like in her energy when she's on video? What is her overall energy, her overall aura in her brand that makes her a yes, right? And how many of you are probably following somebody right now where you're like, I love this person, I'm going to work with them one day. Or I love this person, maybe I haven't bought from them yet, but I can't stop watching them. And I just like, there's something about them. They're a yes. So what is it about that person, about their energy? What makes you really feel that? Is it something that they embody? Is it a way that they communicate? Is it a style that they have? And these qualities, right, these energetics, it's really important for you to understand the energy-wise, because your high-level buyer, your high-end buyer is likely looking for the same things in the investment decision with you. So the energy, number one. And there's always a deepening of that energetic work. There's always a new level. Similarly, the brand. At first glance, we'll do this sometimes inside of our events, and I'll have somebody come up and I will say, okay, the last person we had on an event, I was guest speaking in this big event. And I said, I'd love a volunteer. She was teaching high ticket offers to her clients. And so I came on and I had this conversation about building the instant influence identity. And I asked the woman, I said, okay, do I have your permission to get vulnerable? And she said, yes. So I said, okay, great. How much do you want to be paid? And so she said, $20,000. Perfect. And then I asked her, I said, can you put your social media handle in the chat? And I'm going to have I had everybody on the chat open the social media profile. And I said, we love you. We're going to be honest with you right now. And then we did a poll. How much would you invest into this mentor at first glance? And it's such a powerful reflection, because that was where we really had this conversation where people were saying, I would invest $5,000 into your mentorship or $2,500, but there was a little bit of an incongruency where the $20,000 wasn't landing with the people in the chat. So when we think about the brand, right, we talked about this conversation and the analogy of the high-end store, going into the Balenciaga, walking into the Christian Louboutin. You're going to go in there with a perception of, I'm going to invest X amount in this shoe or in this bag, or when I buy a dad hat, it's going to be a lot. It's not going to be cheap. It's going to be hundreds of dollars when I buy even this little dad hat, right? So when we think about your brand perception, are we giving the right signal with the perception of value on the front end and the price tag that you want to be paid? So this is something for you to take a look at in your objective brand, is like in the presence piece, where could you use some refining or elevation? Or it could be turning the dial up on who you already are. Where can we take that to the next level in a way that's going to either elevate the perception or match the standards of the person that you're wanting to call in? Energy, brand. And this final piece that is so, so important is we also have your influence. Number one, so we can talk about influence in a couple different ways. Who are you being seen with? What are the types of people that you have in your own circle? Who are you getting in the room with? What rooms are you putting yourself in, whether it's, virtually, whether it's in-person events? But also, how are you being perceived in your own leadership? Because when we think about this, and influence is such an interesting thing, because when we think about this, it's like, are we really, number one, claiming our space as the one, showing up with that conviction, building the brand that matches and represents that? But also, when we think about this level of influence, are you really taking up the space as this go-to expert in your industry? And I remember the first time this ever happened, I had no intention of this. And this is when I realized that speaking was something that created this instant influence. It was that first event I ever had. I bought a $49 mic from Amazon. I rented out my common room apartment. Nobody saw me as a speaker before that. I tried to get booked on stages for years. And I took pictures of the event. I posted them on the internet. And it wasn't even a couple weeks later, somebody said, oh, at that time I was speaking more on brand because that was my background. He said, oh, you're a brand speaker? They saw the $49 mic in my hand. They said, we're looking for a brand speaker at this big conference that we're doing here in Orlando in a few weeks. We would love to fly you out and give you the speaker spot. So it was like that one thing, right? That $49 microphone in my hand shaped the perception for that massive event host. This event was an event with 10X Health, and it was this massive event. And because I had that perception of my brand as the speaker, somebody else saw me as a woman of influence, where at the time, I don't really think I was making a lot of money in my business. I was probably making a couple $1,000s a month, and I was like, who am I to speak at this conference? But the microphone really shaped that. So it's like this speaker brand identity, this when you can infuse these three things, when you can understand, number one, like your brand is sending this signal. Your brand is always signaling before you ever get the chance to use your voice. It's like this unspoken conversation. It's the 50 millisecond sale. It's the instant perception. It's when you nail it, I call it the instant influence identity. So these three things: your energy, the signal you're sending in your energy, your brand, the actual presentation with this level of intentionality, right? You don't have to go and do, if sparkles aren't your thing, you don't have to go do that. Even there's certain people online where they have a signature style. I think of Shelby Sapp. She trains remote closers and she does sales calls. But she's always in this, she has a signature style where she has workout clothes. So she's in her workout clothes, she's in her car, she's on her phone. This girl's making $2 million a month, but her brand perception is it's intentional, it's polished. She's got her hair in the ponytail, it's brushed nice, it's slicked. She's got the matcha in her hand. She's got her, even just like with her workout clothes, and she'll wear a little bit of gold jewelry. It's intentionally put together, but she has an intentional signature style that she creates in that brand through line. So the brand might not, right? It's going to look different for each and every one of you. I was having a conversation with one of our 12-month mastermind members, and she just recently had a baby. And so we were talking about this in depth, and it's like, well, if that's something where right now you're in a season of you have a baby on your hip and you're showing up to like a live stream or a reel or something like that, like how can we even incorporate that into your brand perception of you are a mom, but you're also crushing it. You also have made $22,000 in monthly recurring revenue with this, but it's not like you have to get glammed up and you need the glam squad. It's how can you create intentionality that creates this level of emotional safety and psychological safety in the buyer? Because that pattern, that repetition, that end-to-end congruency, no matter what that looks like for your brand, the level of intentionality is what's going to make it high end. I think about the Balenciaga example versus Zara. When you go into Zara, the clothes are kind of like stuffed in the racks. They're everywhere. They're like, things are kind of jammed in. There's a lot of different options. But when you go into Balenciaga, there's more space. There's more white space. There's a level of intentionality. The products are placed on the shelf and there's more focused space around it. So I think about that with high-end brand, your style, we want to honor that. We want to crank it up, of course. But how can we create more intentionality in that? And then the influence. Understanding what is the way for you to shape the influence. When I think about instant influence, and this is one of the reasons why inside of our masterminds, like the Wealthy Speaker Society is our 12-month mastermind. It's really about becoming the top voice in your industry. Yes, we build these high-end speaker brands, but our clients are also, we have women writing books. Somebody just signed a book deal in there. We have women that are hosting the top conferences in the industry. So there's certain different things that you can do to signal in your brand, hey, I am this person of influence. Claiming your space, planting this flag, and asking yourself, how can I take this sphere of influence and make it bigger? Through strategic partnerships, through getting on the stage. And this is one of the reasons why we put all of our high proximity clients in the arena. We put them on the stage. We do these full brand productions, and we really, as quickly as possible, even if it's at our virtual events, we're putting clients in the arena so that they can start to be perceived as this woman of influence. They get the brand association with Wealthy Speaker, like you're seen on the stage with all of these experts. So those are 3 things for you to contemplate on for your positioning, because when you have this positioning dialed in, hammered in, this is when you're going to create this instant influence. You're going to create this instant yes. You're going to create this energy that makes people immediately feel Amber is a woman of influence. Brianna is somebody who I want to pay very, very highly. Deborah is an absolute rock star, and I want to join her $20,000 offer because I want her to lead me. When you have these in place, this is when you can collapse time. Also, building trust, you can collapse time in the sales process because people perceive you as somebody who is trusted, somebody who they want to be led by, and somebody who they want to pay highly. So, the instant influence identity. One of my favorite things is the positioning. When you have the actual sales speaking skills, you know how to speak to move people. And then you position your brand as this instant influence. That is when people find you, they instantly trust you, they instantly buy from you. This is when you become a match for higher paying clients, higher paying speaking opportunities. You become a match for the most extraordinary collaborations. You become somebody who the top conferences in the industry where people pay to speak on their stage, they're paying you to speak on the stage and you're coming back for a second year. So this is the work that we do so deeply inside of the Wealthy Speaker certification. Inside of She Speaks, They Buy, we really walked through the Wealthy Speaker roadmap at a high level, and we got a lot of the foundations in to really help you build massive momentum, being somebody who is influential, being a woman who, when you speak, people move. When you speak, people respond. And your next step from She Speaks, They Buy would be the Wealthy Speaker certification to take this deeper and to really have a space where you can deepen these skills. You can build out your signature talks, your signature events. You can have the mentorship to personalize this to your message so that you know how to really attract high-end buyers, really ignite that internal activation that moves them into yes momentum, and actually build out your high-end speaker brand inside of this 6-month mastermind. So we're going to have one more call here. We're going to have a celebration call, and we're going to have a finale inside of She Speaks, They Buy. If you know you want to continue this work and you know that you want to be inside of a mastermind space where we're actually going in with mentorship, We're able to go deep. We're able to implement together. You're able to be in a community with other women who are just really changing the world. Women who are speaking on stages, women who are building the top speaker brands in the industry, women who are hosting events around the world. We have clients right now that are doing the top virtual conferences in the industry. They're doing international sold out events. We just had a client sell out even a local event in 2.5 weeks. So if you know you want to be in a space like that where women are really focused on creating a high-end speaker brand, positioning yourself as a woman of influence, and mastering the transformational art of sales speaking so that you can sign on high-ticket clients with ease, and you can also become a match for high-paying speaking opportunities, you can DM me Wealthy Speaker for details and to apply. We have 2 different ways to join this offer. There's 2 different levels and 2 different price points. So if that's something that you want to see if it's a good fit, just send me a DM and we can talk about if it's the right match for you. I'm very, very excited. We have one more celebration call, a finale, and we're going to really just take the time to anchor into the women who have been showing up the biggest. Really take the time to, we have an award ceremony here. So if you guys have hit the 10K day award, if you guys are going out, you're booking stages, you're pitching stages, rattle off in the wins channel. I'm going to be dropping more inside of the Telegram chat this week to continue to deepen this work. I'm very, very excited for who you become in this process, for all of the momentum, for the way that you've been showing up, the way that you've been taking up space online, the way that you've been selling with boldness, with audacity. This has just been one of my favorite experiences inside of She Speaks, They Buy. You will have a special opportunity. We have a very special opportunity in She Speaks, They Buy for those of you who choose to continue inside of the Wealthy Speaker certification. We do have a special opportunity when you are joining by the 15th of August, where we're doing a lot of really incredible done-for-you high-end branding and production around that. So I'm going to drop that inside of Telegram with all of the details. And then, of course, if you have any questions or you would love to apply, you can DM me Wealthy Speaker. And I'm so excited to see what you create inside of your high-end speaker brand. I'm so excited to see you on our finale call inside of Telegram. I love you so, so much. And I will see you in Telegram. I will see you on our call, and I'll be dropping the final day and time for that inside of the space so you know when we're going to meet, when we're going to celebrate you. And I cannot wait to see you inside. Okay. Bye, everybody.